The 26th pick in an NFL draft rarely makes headlines, but sometimes it's that exact selection that reveals everything you need to know about how franchises are approaching the future. I'm talking about decisions that happen in the shadows of the top 10. Moves that don't generate the same social media frenzy, but absolutely shape the direction of entire organizations for years to come. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report. I'm your host. And if you're here, it's because you want the real analysis on not just what the Bears are doing, but what's happening across this league that directly impacts how we should be thinking about our team's trajectory. This isn't just another recap channel throwing out surface-level takes. Here you're getting the updated news, the strategic breakdowns, and the context you deserve as a Bears fan who understands this game goes deeper than Sunday's box score. Today, I'm breaking down something from the latest 2026 mock draft that has massive implications for how we should be evaluating our own draft strategy, and it involves a selection that happened literally one pick after the Bears made their move. Stay with me because what I'm about to explain changes how you should be thinking about building a championship roster in today's NFL. Let me set the stage for you because understanding where we are as a franchise right now is crucial to appreciating why this matters. The Chicago Bears are in a fascinating position heading into the 2026 draft. We've spent the last few years addressing some of our most glaring needs. We've invested in the offensive side of the ball. And now we're at a point where the decisions we make in the next draft cycle will determine whether we're legitimate contenders or just another team stuck in mediocrity. That's the reality of where we stand. And as fans who have lived through too many disappointing seasons, we need to be clear-eyed about what it takes to get over the hump. Building through the draft isn't just about taking the best player available. It's about understanding positional value. It's about recognizing how other successful franchises are constructing their rosters. And it's about being smart enough to learn from what's happening around the league. Now, the latest mock draft projections have teams making some really interesting decisions throughout the first round, and I want to focus on a specific area of the draft that directly relates to the Bears. We're projected to be picking at number 25, and according to the most recent projections, Chicago is taking Romelo Height, an edge rusher out of Texas Tech. On paper, that makes sense for us. We need pass rush help. We need developmental talent along the defensive front, and Height brings exactly the kind of length and athletic upside that modern defenses require. He's 6'6" with legitimate speed off the edge. He's got the frame to add strength without losing explosiveness, and he's the type of project that could turn into a legitimate weapon if developed correctly. For the Bears, adding that kind of talent at pick 25 feels like solid value, feels like the kind of move that addresses a need while also taking a swing on upside. But here's where it gets interesting, and here's why I wanted to talk about this today. Immediately after the Bears make that selection, at pick 26, the Los Angeles Chargers are projected to take Oliva Vega-Ewine, a guard out of Penn State. Now, I know some of you might be wondering why I'm spending time talking about what the Chargers are doing when this is a Bears channel. Stay with me because this selection tells us something crucial about two completely different philosophies of team building, and understanding those philosophies helps us evaluate whether our own approach is the right one. The Chargers, under Jim Harbaugh, are making a statement with this pick. They're saying that physicality in the trenches matters more than anything else. They're saying that controlling the line of scrimmage is how you win playoff games. They're saying that they'd rather have a mauler who can dominate at the point of attack than chase upside at more glamorous positions. Oliva Vega-Ewine is exactly the type of player Jim Harbaugh has built his entire coaching career around. This kid out of Penn State is as physical as they come at the guard position. We're talking about a true mauler in the run game, someone who consistently wins at the point of attack, someone who brings that old-school mentality that Harbaugh absolutely loves. When you watch Ewine's tape, you see a player who thrives on contact, who finishes blocks, who has the technical foundation to be a day one starter in the NFL. He's not the flashiest prospect. He's not going to generate millions of views on highlight reels, but he's exactly the kind of foundational piece that championship teams are built on. The Chargers getting him at pick 26 represents tremendous value, and more importantly, it represents a commitment to an identity that has proven successful throughout NFL history. Now let's compare these two approaches, because this is where the conversation gets really interesting for us as Bears fans. Chicago is taking a developmental edge rusher with physical tools and upside. Los Angeles is taking a pro-ready interior offensive lineman who can contribute immediately. Both picks make sense for their respective teams. Both fill legitimate needs, but they represent fundamentally different philosophies about how to construct a winning roster. The Bears are betting on potential, on the idea that Height can develop into a consistent pass rusher over the next few years. The Chargers are betting on immediate impact, on the idea that Ioane can help them win now by solidifying the interior of their offensive line. Neither approach is inherently wrong, but they do tell you something about where each franchise believes they are in their competitive window. For the Bears, I understand the logic behind chasing pass rush upside. We've seen what elite edge rushers can do in this league. We've seen how they can single-handedly change games, and we know that finding that kind of player is incredibly difficult. Height has the physical tools to potentially become that guy, and if the development goes right, if the coaching staff can maximize his athleticism while teaching him the technical refinements he needs, then this pick could end up being a home run. But there's risk involved. There's the possibility that he never fully develops, and there's the reality that developmental edge rushers often take years before they become consistent contributors. That's the gamble, and it's a gamble that needs to work if the Bears are going to take the next step as a franchise. Meanwhile, what the Chargers are doing with Ioane represents a different kind of risk calculation. They're betting that by dominating in the trenches, by building the kind of physical offensive line that can impose its will on opponents, they're creating the foundation for sustainable success. Harbaugh has proven throughout his coaching career that this approach works. At Michigan, he built one of the most physical offensive lines in college football and used that dominance to win a national championship. Now he's trying to replicate that formula in Los Angeles, and grabbing Ioane at 26 is exactly the kind of move that fits that vision. The risk here is lower in terms of development. Ioane projects as a much safer pick who should be able to contribute immediately, but there is also arguably less upside in terms of how much he can elevate the entire team. Let me talk about positional value for a second, because this is crucial to understanding why these selections matter. In today's NFL, edge rushers are premium assets. Teams will pay top dollar for guys who can get after the quarterback, and the salary cap implications of having a great edge rusher on a rookie contract are enormous. That's part of why the Bears taking Height makes sense from a value perspective. If he develops into even an above-average starter, you're getting Pro Bowl level production at a fraction of what it would cost to acquire that player in free agency. Guards, on the other hand, generally don't command the same kind of market value. Even elite guards rarely get the massive contracts that top edge rushers do. So from a pure positional value standpoint, you could argue the Bears are making the smarter long-term play. But here's the counter-argument, and it's one that Harbaugh would absolutely make if you asked him. Positional value charts don't win football games. Having a dominant offensive line that can run the ball when everyone knows you're running it, that can protect your quarterback and give him time to operate, that can physically dominate opponents in the fourth quarter when games are won and lost. That's what wins championships. The Chargers aren't worried about getting the most value according to some analytical model. They're worried about building an identity that translates to playoff success. And if you look at the teams that have consistently won in January and February, they're almost always the teams that can control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. For Bears fans, this creates an interesting question that we need to be asking ourselves. Are we building the right way? Are we making the kinds of picks that will eventually lead to sustained success? Or are we chasing upside without building the foundational pieces that championship teams require? I'm not saying the Height pick is wrong. I'm saying we need to be honest about what it represents and what it requires to work. If Height develops as hoped, if he becomes that consistent pass rusher we need, then this approach makes perfect sense. But if he doesn't, if he ends up being just another developmental project that never quite pans out, then we'll look back and wonder if we should have prioritized more certain contributors who could have helped us win now. The broader context here is that the 2026 draft is shaping up to be absolutely loaded with talent across multiple positions. You've got quarterbacks going at the top, you've got elite defensive players throughout the first round, and you've got teams making aggressive moves to position themselves for franchise-altering selections. The Bears sitting at 25 puts us in an interesting spot where we're likely not getting one of the true blue-chip prospects, but we're also not so late that we're just taking best available without regard to fit. That middle of the first-round area is where smart franchises separate themselves by identifying the right kind of player for their system and their timeline. Height could absolutely be that guy for us, but we need to see the development happen before we can call it a win. Looking at what the Chargers are doing provides a useful comparison point because it reminds us that there are multiple valid approaches to building a roster. Some teams prioritize immediate impact, some teams swing for upside, and the most successful organizations are probably the ones that find the right balance between those two philosophies. As Bears fans, I think we need to see our front office demonstrate that they understand when to take the safer pick versus when to take the boom or bust prospect. The Height selection suggests they're still willing to bet on development and potential, which is fine as long as those bets start hitting at a higher rate than we've seen historically. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear from you because your perspective on this matters. Do you like the idea of the Bears taking Romelo Height at 25, or would you prefer we go in a different direction? When you see the Chargers taking a guy like Iowan right after us, does that make you question our approach? Or do you think chasing pass rush upside is the smarter long-term play? Are we building this roster the right way? Or do we need to be more focused on getting guys who can help us win immediately? I remain optimistic about this franchise's direction, but that optimism needs to be validated by smart decisions in drafts like this one. Time will tell which approach proves more successful. If you found this analysis valuable and you want to stay ahead of every development with the Chicago Bears, I need you to subscribe to Bears News Fan Report right now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown like this, and share this video with other Bears fans who care about the strategic side of team building. We're creating a community here of informed fans who understand the game at a deeper level, and I want you to be part of it. See you in the next video with more draft analysis and team updates. Bear down.